This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're doing Thrive, the last series of our Thrive Social Connection, Staying Connected and Reconnecting, brought to you by Restore Resilience by Zillion. We want to thank them again for sponsoring our Thrive sessions. So just again, a quick little housekeeping about the WWCMA. If you weren't already aware, we're the Worksite Wellness Council of Massachusetts. We're the premier community for thought leadership and employee well-being. And our mission is to provide programs such as this, networking opportunities, resources, such as our online resources and more, to help organizations cultivate and sustain a thriving culture. And our purpose is to connect and collaborate and learn from each other. This session and those going forward are going to be really trying to encourage everyone to learn from each other and try to help provide best practices. We always like to thank our sponsors. They help us thrive, and we have several different levels. We also have conference sponsorships, and it's a great way to elevate your brand and show your commitment to the worksite wellness. If you're interested, please contact Phil Bean. He's our vice chair at sponsors@wwcma.org. And thanks to our sponsors, we have been able to provide a COVID-19 resources page. This has a variety of resources, employer-focused resources, and some personal resources to help you and your employees navigate this definitely interesting time. And we'll be providing more resources in the months coming about the reentry and reacclimation into our work and personal life. This was our last session, but we do have more coming up. We are going to have our June webinar. It's going to be financial wellness in the time of COVID. The date is still to be determined, so please check our website and check our newsletter and our emails to learn more. We are going to be focusing on the financial impact of COVID, felt both by individuals and organizations. We're going to cover how employers can address financial well-being of their employees and what resources are available to employees and employers to help navigate the financial wellness for longevity and feeling secure. So again, stay tuned for that. We look forward to providing some sponsor and host information. And as always, want to become a member, want to join our programs, get all of our programs for free, get a discount at our conference, join today and you get 3 months free. Learn more, again, go to our website. We have the promo code here, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us for questions. But value that we can provide through our membership provides programs such as these and more. Lastly, if this is your first session, just so you know, this is your icon bar up here. We have a webcam. Please feel free to put it on, turn it off, whatever you feel comfortable with. We have a chat box. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the chat box. I or my colleague Terry will be checking those throughout the session. And also, this session is recorded and will be available on our portal to members later. This session, we typically make these sessions content with discussion at the end. This time, I'm going to be interweaving some more commentary throughout, so please unmute yourself or answer in the chat box throughout the content. And we will still leave some time at the end for discussion, but I'm going to try to have some more discussion earlier, midway, in our compact time we have together. And lastly, myself. I'm a holistic health coach and founder of Your Wellness Scout. I'm also the education and events co-chair on the WWCMA. I have over 17 years of industry experience and navigating wellness and the work-life balance. I've been working on a working parent survival guide, which I know a lot of people might need now. So one of these things is we're always looking at how do you help compete, really understand work-life balance among the rush of competing priorities. So I look forward to using a lot of my experiential and my educational resources to help you all today. Let's get down to the meat of it. So today we're talking about staying connected, but also re-entry and the fear associated with that. I always like to start with our lifestyle approach. And again, the reason why I say that is because all of these things are interconnected. They help us especially with our emotional well-being, and that's connected to our physical well-being. And I think everybody the last few months have been really understanding the closer the closer connection between all of these. And that thriving is often about not just bouncing back from the situation, it's understanding how to reframe your mindset so the situation doesn't seem as onerous and stressful and anxiety ridden, and that you often need a lot of these components to help you thrive. Again, we can't, Rome wasn't built in a day. We can't solve for everything. So it's looking at little pieces along the way. So as I said, I'm looking forward to hearing you all comment and definitely participate, because I think we definitely can learn from each other and really help understand how we can continue to stay connected, but also reconnect in a new way with our employees, our friends, and our colleagues. So how do you connect? Again, I'll just go out there. How do you connect? Love to hear how, when I say connect, like how are you keeping in touch with people? The obvious ones, but I'd love to hear some from some of you.
I gather with friends on Zoom calls. It works out great.
Good. And you can unmute yourself by the top icon, the little microphone at the top, or by, I think, you touching your picture and unmuting yourself. So Zoom calls. Anyone using phone text calls? Have you called more?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely just called individual people more than I have before, which has been really nice just to, make that one-on-one connection. Although I do think, right, having sort of a party atmosphere with Zoom is a lot of fun. One other app I know that's been gaining popularity, I don't know if anybody's tried it, I have, and it was a lot of fun. It's called House Party. So it's basically like virtual, everybody can get together, but there's a lot of different games then to play as well. So that's been a lot of fun to do, something that I actually, really hadn't participated in prior to this, so it was kind of a fun thing, get together to do like a game aspect with it too.
Yeah, house party. I've heard of that. I haven't tried it, but I've heard of that, and it's a great way to play games and definitely connect in a new way. I've heard ones for also kids and grandparents. They've been using it more. It was called, I'll look up the name and send it, add it to the slides, but it was an idea for games that grandparents or any parent could play with their children, like you can. So it's similar, but more for kids too. But that's great about the house party. I've heard about that. It's a computer video service. Shared movie watching, I think that belongs in the house party. Just a quick question, in that house party, did they let you talk to each other? Like, can you communicate and send messages to each other?
Oh yeah, like it's basically like a virtual conference. Like you can see everyone's faces, everybody can hear one another, and then whoever initiated, quote unquote, the house party, starts the games. There's like trivia, there's Pictionary, so it's really cool. Yep.
That's great. That's great. So I think that, that's a great way, and thanks for that. I think that people, I love calling. I called my aunt yesterday, and I haven't called her in so long. I've been trying to call. I've been reconnecting with older friends because that feeds into my comfort zone. So these are, different ways to connect. And what has worked? I think we just heard that, are you connecting with those at a greater distance more? I had a client who said that she had 7 brothers and sisters, and there was one brother who would always call everybody and then get the information and then like do a telephone round robin and connect everybody. And then because of this, they now got all on Zoom and they're all talking to each other. It was actually a lot of fun and more efficient. Any others say, well, what has worked?
We had a family.
I can say that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so I live in a very small cul-de-sac. There's only 5 houses, and one of the dads is actually a DJ on the side. So every Sunday afternoon, he's been DJing for the neighborhood, and we've sat out in our driveways and just kind of waved hello and all that kind of stuff. It's been neat. Their kids are much younger than ours, so we're close to our neighbors, but we're not like buddies. But this has been a nice way to kind of reconnect with our neighbors that we wouldn't normally do. So pretty neat.
All right, so everyone head to Terry's for a block party, but socially
Yeah.
Come on down.
We had a Zoom family reunion, and the word spread from cousins to children to grandchildren. So there ended up being 42 people on this Zoom meeting. And of course, we wanted to hear an update from everybody. So the organizer did something very smart. Instead of, she did not dictate who would speak next. When a person spoke, she would say, now you choose somebody to speak.
Well, that's a good
So
idea.
that way, it took the burden off her, and it also eliminated the confusion of 5 people trying to speak at the same time.
Yep. And that's great. And that's sometimes, yeah, I mean, I think that helping and coordinating those speaking efforts are very, very helpful, you know, and that's the great thing is people actually are learning to get out of learning this new way of mode of communication. And maybe, you know, with work too, it's provided new ways that we've heard about happy hours. We've heard about, you know, I've heard about online team challenges with community boards where people are ranking and supporting each other through, you know, how they've been doing with their wellness challenges. I've heard that Virgin Pulse apparently has a virtual hug challenge. And so there's a lot of ways, you know, that we can try to help not only ourselves and our families, but also our individuals and our employees by, you know, like doing interview questions, highlighting employees that maybe have had success stories from working from home or how they've been able to stay healthy at home. A lot of times we have our own ingenious ways of kind of adapting and figuring out what works best for us. And what has not worked? I don't know, maybe people have said there's too much multitasking while on virtual calls. Maybe it's hard juggling family time. You know, quickly, we'd love to have one response on any challenges anyone has faced. I know there have maybe, but let's go ahead and get moving. I want to talk about why, you know, again, the social connection point, and then, you know, very quickly, you know, then look into the reentry portion and fear. You know, why connect? This is, you know, MindWise as an organization. They've been doing a lot with connection and with those who are having some mental health issues too, because this is all getting to be very hard on us. But human beings are inherently social, and, you know, studies have shown that humans thrive in social groups. And so, you know, trying to recreate those social groups online can be kind of challenging, but it's necessary for survival. You know, and if we didn't have the internet and social media and TV devices connecting us even more, you know, would it be evident that how much we need social connection in person? I think that the technology has provided us that opportunity. So, you know, why is it important? You know, it provides us with an identity. It improves our quality of life. It helps us live longer, decreases the risk of suicide, and boosts mental health, as we know. And so we are social, and that's what social connection provides us. And that's why it's important to always continue to try to keep at it, even though we feel like we need to go inward. You know, what does it provide us, and how can we help others too? I think one of the things is, you know, how can you stay socially connected? One way is that during all of this, are there fellow colleagues that you can help? Is there someone down the street that you can help? Can you do it in a socially distant, respectful way that can either support them through mental health or through financial help? You know, are you feel like you're taking the heavier load, or could you help another employee take a little bit off their plate? If they're juggling too much and just for a little bit, or maybe there's a certain way to talk to others about how you can help them out if they're in a time of stress. That also can help your mental health if you're feeling isolated. So, you know, these are a couple things quickly talking about why it's important to socially connect. You know, call a friend if you're having trouble, help those. And because it's always important to keep that mental health aspect in mind. And so as we are going forward to reentry and reconnecting, you know, does your organization have a reentry plan? Do you have one? Would love to hear from some of you thoughts and sharing on what maybe some of your organizations have either discussed or put into play. Have they talked about communication? Have they talked about financial? Has there been talk about empathy? Has there been things about, you know, work from home policies? What have all of you been hearing or know is going to be in a discussion point coming up? Anyone?
Hi, Kirsten.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is Eric. One of the things that our organization has been doing is to kind of get back people to work, because we're essential with the health insurance, is to offer free lunches and have a cafeteria that's set up with only 4 chairs that are 6 feet apart from each other around a round table. So it's kind of interesting by practicing social distancing, but getting together and organizing. And they always do some kind of themed lunch to get everybody to come back in to the office, which I thought was kind of cool. Yeah. So, you know, and the Human Resources Department has been really good about sending out like a positive, fun message to kind of promote everybody. Come on up to the cafeteria, wear your mask if you feel comfortable doing that. Have some free lunch, whatever it is. Like this week was, you know, the Mexican Cinco de Mayo thing. And, you know, sit at tables that are, you know, you only got 4 people at a table, but it's kind of fun just to get us together. You know, there's a lot of things that we've done in the work to keep everybody separate. And, you know, they're kind of thinking, well, you know, this is an organization, so let's do things and organize events that are safe, but bring us together face to face, because we've been working from home for, you know, too long, 2 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yep. That's a great idea. And I think a lot of people are actually now, in one sense, and hopefully I have time for this. I was listening to a gentleman about, I say he's a mental health expert, but anyway, he basically mentioned a really good point that, you know, in order you know, trying to get through this is that we look at the positives, and that we try to understand that, you know, that there is a lot of ways that we can, you know, look at this not in a fearful manner, but as a way of, you know, what is it that these people can do, that they can actually, you know, that they like 6 feet apart. It's a great opportunity in order to not let that fear overcome. Like, okay, we can get through this. How can we look at the positivity of the aspect of it?
Right.
Any others? You know, and I think that, does any of you have any work from home policies, virtual wellness programming? You know, has there been any communication or talk about that? You know, have a plan for continually engaging both on-site and off-site? You know, and I think, like you said, you know, Eric, that this is a good way to help employees feel like my company is providing these safe ways for me to engage. And what is the best way to make this in a manner that's going to not focus so much on what we can't do, but focus on what we can. And we've all taken a pause, and we've all been able to really understand, oh, we're really starting to savor, like, I'm going to love going to a coffee shop now and getting a croissant and working there when I can do that. Like, I'm going to savor, you know, someone say they're going to savor happy hours. They're going to savor all things. And that's what I was trying, I actually had a mind blank a few minutes ago. That's what I was saying. You're going to savor the fact that we're going to be getting, we haven't been able to get some of the simple things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just looking for a friend of mine. She just told me what it is at her work. So sorry if I'm on the webcam looking down, but I want to read this, so I make it look like so she works at the Mass Dental Society, and so this is what she said. I'm going to read this, and I'm sorry if it's a little wonk. So if they go back into the office in June, maybe, everybody will need to be taking their temperatures every morning. There'll be no kitchen, no staff kitchen or refrigerator, no using coffee machines, masks always on, need to wear gloves, change them a lot, and we'll only be allowed to go to the bathroom at certain times. No water for employees, and we can't hang out together. No more conference rooms. And her comment was, this is insane. So, you know, one of the things that we do is we've promoted virtual wellness using our healthcare provider, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, and having both wellness and mental health available. And they, you know, use your virtual doctor and use your virtual wellness. This is May, this is Mental Health Month, if I don't know if people knew that. But, you know, you should use those tools that are available if you don't have somebody like Kirsten, who's your wellness coordinator on site or available. But promote those through work, you know, where you can have those virtual chats. Like I use my online teledoc, you know, to have a teleconference when this first came out. And then I've also used the benefits like a virtual yoga class, which was kind of cool. You know, so, and I've connected with my providers like my chiropractor, who's also one of my cycling buddies, to offer at-home virtual chiropractor, which seems kind of crazy, but he gave me a whole bunch of exercises to help relieve the stress in my neck. And as you can see, I'm on a bouncy ball. He said, get rid of the chair and sit on a yoga ball. So I kind of float around a little bit. Sorry about that. But things like that, to keep engaging my core, make my lower back feel a lot better after a work day. So, those are just a couple of things that I've done that I think other people can get with. And I know that most people who have healthcare have a virtual health option. And I would encourage people to not just think of it as teledoc to talk to somebody about, do I have COVID? But there's a lot of other things that you can get out of your teledoc.
Right. Well, I mean, it's similar like your EAP. EAP, I think a lot of times people have always thought of something that if you have extreme measures that you need to contact them. But no, your EAP is there to help through challenging times and with mental, physical, social well-being. So, those are great comments. And that's very true. I think, and we also have to remember too, that these are just temporary solutions to help sure that we can all get safely back together. And have more connections. And so, these are a lot of good things. Definitely, when you're talking to your employer or your employees, reach out to their health insurance provider, see what type of practices they're putting into play. The fact that cafeteria, safe distancing, yes, we have to limit some services, but that means we can still get together, and that slowly, hopefully, they can rejoin our mode of operating. So I think, I mentioned some of these things, alternative schedules, work style, Eric mentioned a bunch of these, do you have a plan for continually engaging both on-site and off-site? So there's lots of different ways, and there's a lot of resources out there. We're going to have some more resources. We have our webinar coming up, and I know more people are going to be trying to help with that. And the last point that I want to mention is fear. Being a health coach, I think fear is a something that can be talked about in the individual and the employer-employee space. I don't know if when some of the people heard what Eric read, it made you think, like we can't use the coffee machines, we can't use this. What does that mean? And sometimes you have to step back and say, okay, what are the facts and what do we, fear, as we said, fear has a physiological and a psychological impact. And, we mentioned this in our last session about how fear and anxiety are very closely related, and that they are very intertwined and connected. But a lot of times, fear is to go beyond those fearful thoughts. You need to really try to think outside what you're in at the moment, and not let the fight or flight or the anxiety take over and create the fear and get into that repetitive cycle. So just quickly, some tips for addressing fear is very broad. There's tons of resources out there. One I've heard is recognize awareness of fear. Recognize or awareness of fear. It doesn't mean you identify it. It just, that it's there. So once you know that it's there, you can say, okay, I have it, but I don't need to let it overtake me. Another thing is, are your fears happening now? I would love to hear a shout out of what are some of your fears now? Quick shout out. Anyone?
Well, I'm afraid we'll never get back to work.
Was there? What?
We'll never get back to work. I have a lot of clients that laid off a lot of people, and my biggest fear is that the states won't open up and allow them to business to transact, because we need that. Right. We need business transactions. If you can't work from home and your business relies on people walking through a public door, this has been very, very challenging. And my biggest fear is that those people won't be able to come back.
Right. It's true. Any others?
I think that my biggest fear is how people are going to start just reacting to one another as people start to re-enter, or there are choices to wear masks or not wear masks. And, there's always been most recently, I would say in the past year, a heavy focus on like bullying in school and those types of things. And now I'm kind of feeling like it's almost becoming potentially like acceptable to bully or socially shame someone for not doing something that you're afraid of. And so you're taking your own precautions versus someone else may not have those same fears. So I'm kind of fearful about how one another are going to perceive, react to, or address one another when we have options as far as, do you want to do this or not do this?
That is very, 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 very good point.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to connect with you because I feel like we could just talk about it, because I remember talking, I said, I've never seen such polarization and judgment based in fear. I feel like people are shaming and fearful and because of that. So it's a very good point that there's reactions based on people's fears because you're not doing what makes me feel comfortable.
Right.
You know, as a very, very, very good point. You know, and I think some of the things just, you know, one of the things is this happening now? You know, is your fear happening now? Is it happening right this minute? You know, is it in the present moment, or is it something in the future? You know, if you can't face it or address it, they are always unresolved and they'll always stay fears. So one way of getting out of a fear is saying, is this happening now? No, right? It's not happening right this minute. So dwelling on it only prolongs the aspect in my eye, you know, aspect that it's continuing on. Like my daughter is fearful of, when she plays piano, she's fearful that she's going to mess up. Her fear freezes her and actually she messes up. So if you think about it, fear actually sometimes causes the exact thing you're fearful of sometimes, in that case. Another one is, I got this from the Cleveland Health Clinic, is 5-4-1. So when you're having a fearful moment, you see 5 things, you touch 4 things, you hear 3 things, you smell 2 things, and you taste 1 thing. And those 5 ways kind of brings you into the present moment. You know, look at positivity, meditation. And these are all things that you can take to your employees and your employers. You know, do you have colleagues that are fearful about returning to work? Why are they? Maybe they can look at the positive mindset. You know, will we be able to get back to work? How can we try to keep a strong and then the last thing is, fear serves no useful purpose. If you focus on it, doesn't equal sign. Fear focus doesn't equal control. I think we all feel like we're lack of control. So how do we focus? If you focus too much on fear, you're going to feel, if you focus on fear, it doesn't mean you've gotten control, right? And so, you know, you got to realize the destructive nature of fear and what it can do. And Eckhart Tolle, he says, unhappiness is produced by the narratives in your mind. Another quote I love is, extreme fear can neither fight nor fly. Fears, as Yoda, always a great guide in life. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. So as you said, you know, Elizabeth, I think that was a great comment. You know, fear is actually a driving force for anger. And if we all try to mitigate our fear, you know, it's that pay it forward will be more prevalent. Courage is knowing what not to fear. So these are the types of things, you know, if you feel like there's too much going on, turn off the news, you know, turn off some of the Facebook stuff. Try to focus on what's positive and what's growing within your mind. You know, try to talk to employees about, hey, how can we make our work life more conducive and productive? How can we help those colleagues that are struggling? How can we develop a reentry plan that allows people to sit together at a table, maybe 6 feet apart? You know, how do we engage our employees in positive virtual hugs and all those things that can help us feel and support ourselves in a more positive and helpful manner that feels like we're actually making an effort to reconnect versus disconnect through judgment and fear. So I always have my goals up here, and I like to leave last. I know we've gone over and I apologize, but I would love to hear any of your thoughts on what we've discussed. You know, continue to find creative ways to connect, reach out to others, you know, openly communicate with your employees, and remember the importance of social connection. I know a lot of people have gone inward, I have too, but remember that re-engaging with others, you know, is extremely important. And, you know, you can conquer fear, but don't let it immobilize you. I would love to hear any more thoughts, you know, any on the thoughts on the reentry plans, any more sharing on what their fears are, any helpful tips on how they've overcome their fears, or maybe they've heard about their colleagues' fears. What have you used to combat yours?
This is Janet. Sometimes when I'm fearful, I have to ask myself, do you have all the information you need? I find that often when I'm fearful, it's because I only have part of the information available. So I ask myself, what can I do? And that gives me an action I can take, which helps to pull me out of my fear.
And tied in with that too, you know, the other part is that too, you may have to understand that you may not know all the answers. I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do now too. They have to know how long is this going to be? What's our numbers? What's our, and for people who are very numbers database, they feel like they're going to be able to predict everything. And sometimes we can't know everything about the macro, but you can know about your own life. What is it that you can find out for yourself? What can you do to, like you said, Janet, if you don't know the information, what can you find out for yourself that's going to help you? But it may not solve all the problems, but what does it solve in this immediate future?
Well, I know from my neighbor, from walking in the neighborhood, she said that I'm a germaphobe because I don't let dogs lick me on my face. So I don't know if that's so true, but I never really thought of myself as a germaphobe, but I have said, okay, fear only exists if you do nothing to change it. So what I started to do is go for walks with her, and I started to learn the dog's names, baby steps. She always laughs at me. She's like, you just take baby steps. I'm like, yep, I'll do anything second. I never do anything first. And then I'm petting now, and now I've gotten to know Tiggy and some of the other dogs, and still haven't gotten to the part where I'm going to let them lick me on the face, but just don't like that because 5 minutes before they were eating poop or smelling some dog butt, but so it's just no. But I've come to overcome my fears, and I think one of the things what someone or the other commented about is that social pressure of like, are you wearing a mask? Are you not wearing a mask? Are you clean? Are you not clean? And I was noticing, when I walked around the neighborhood, I walk around the neighborhood so that I can loosen up my back and I don't get a sciatic nerve issue. So I go fast. And people were like, oh, you don't want to talk to me. So now that I walk with my neighbor and her dog, I'm more social, and I've met more of my neighbors, and I've slowed down a little bit and just say, well, I can do a fast walk some other time, change my schedule a little bit. And I've also, people kind of reacted a little bit better towards me because I stop and pet their dog, and to kind of equate that to the mask thing, if you have a distance with somebody, it's hard to overcome those fears. But if you make a connection with them and you get, you learn something about them, like their name or their dog's name, or where they, what they do or when they walk, then you can overcome some of those fears. And that might be the fear of like somebody behind a mask, right? That used to be the robber. Now everybody's the norm. So if you see somebody who's not wearing a mask, there might be a reason that they're not wearing a mask. For me as a cyclist, I just can't wear one when I ride. So we just have to keep an open mind as things change and as we come back through life. There might be reasons for people behaving the way they are, and not to jump to conclusions like it's weird or it's different from me. Just take a moment to reach out, pet the dog, learn the name, and find out what's going on.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's one of the things that the judgment and fear, and that's why sometimes communication is important. And we've talked about this too. Communicate with friends, families, neighbors. Have that respect. Try to understand compassion, even that take their judgment as fear. Say, I'm sorry, you're afraid of this. And that's why that's why it's important where if you have a fear of reentering your normal daily practices, communicating and talking about what you're fearful, what you're concerned of, at least gets it off your chest and you've made it evident and you can have an open dialogue about it, because judgment is based in not knowing sometimes and then making assumptions. So it's very key, if you find that especially, again, with an organization, always making sure that there's communication going both ways and help and understanding what it is employees need, what is it employers need to help people feel comfortable and overcome their fear of coming into work a couple of days a week, or maybe they need more flexibility, or maybe they need to work from home, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable coming in unless everyone's wearing a mask. Why is that? What can we do? What are the rules and policies? And it's a challenging time because it's uncharted territory. So the best thing is definitely trying having more positive compassion and understanding that we're all in this together and we're going to try to get through some of these through baby steps.
Hey, Kirsten, I know
Yeah.
we're over time, but one other thing I just wanted to share about, potential tips and thoughts and resources for reentry. And I think this is good for reentry, but then also could carry through just generally for any organization. But there's a company, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Cosentus. And essentially it's based around, your state of mind, starting your day. And so they focus a lot on people who work in teams, and everybody sort of takes a look at this scale and sort of rates where they're at in their mindset for the day. And it really helps get people understanding what's going on, either, so people understand them, they understand their team. And so it might just be something to check out and see what they do and what they're about as a way to kind of help that transition now. But then I also definitely think it could be something that carries forward regardless, if you work as part of a small team within an organization, or even if the entire organization happens to kind of take that on. But thought it was kind of cool.
Wow, that definitely sounds good. And this is something that's supplied to, like, it's an organizational or individual focused type?
It's an organizational focus. Yeah, they do focus on companies. Yeah. The company is Cosentus. I can put it in the chat too, in case anybody wants to.
Sure, that'd be great. That'd be great. That's what we're about here. That's good. I mean, all those things, it's those types of resources I think are going to be becoming more and more prevalent and are really important right now, because organizations are worrying about bottom lines and all these other things, and on top of that, trying to help their employees navigate this. So that's a great resource. Thank you. All right, well, I want to see if anyone else has anything to share. I know we covered a lot and it was a little bit different format. Hopefully that was enjoyable. But again, try to make sure that you don't, as the sessions we've talked about, thriving, making sure you're understanding how to shift your mental mindset, control what you can within your own home, look at your lifestyle approach and what can you do in order to understand your physical, mental health and social well-being affect your livelihood, and how your livelihood affects those factors as well, to reframe your mindset for a positive, fear-free, thriving lifestyle. As I go through, please don't hesitate to jump in if you have any other thoughts. As I said, we value your feedback. Please put in the chat box. We also have a survey at the end that we always love to hear your feedback about these. I really appreciate you all joining me the last 4 weeks. It's interesting, we're now in May. So I've really enjoyed it. And again, please visit our website and join us for more upcoming programs. And we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kristen. Be well.
Kirsten.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Kirsten, just an update. It was Corentus, and I posted it in the chat just to make sure everybody gets the correct name.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I should be pulling it up. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.